Ayun pala, no, yung midterm exam natin dito sa Wednesday. Full day naman available, o pwede nyo sagutan for the whole day yung exam, pero may time limit lang. Kayo nang bahala. Most likely 50 items. Tapos, hanggang TPE. Ganun pa rin, usual. May identification, MCQ, true or false. Pero yung computations, announce ko na lang kung magkakaroon. Pero basic lang naman eh, pagkagawa. More on entries tayo, tsaka theories. Doon ka na lang mag-solve sa advanced mo, sa business combi and odd props. Recording na ba? Ayan, recording na. So ito, topic natin for today, investment property. Parang review mo na lang din to, no, nung inaaral mo sa intermediate accounting. Ayan, learning objectives, define investment property, and give examples. State the initial and subsequent measurements of an investment property, and account for the impairment of investment property and the reversal thereof. Yan, ano ba ang investment property? Is land or building held for rentals or capital appreciation. Examples niyan, land held for long-term capital appreciation, okay, rather than for short-term sale in the ordinary course of operations. Kasi ano yan, inventory yan kapag for sale. Next, land held for a currently undetermined future use. Tapos, building owned by the entity or held by the entity under a finance lease and leased out under one or more operating leases. Next, a building that is vacant but is held to be leased out under one or more operating leases. And last, property that is being constructed or developed for future use as investment property. And ano naman yung mga hindi investment property? Ayan, bioassets and mineral rights and mineral reserves. Property held for sale in the ordinary course of operations. Property being constructed on behalf of third parties, held for future development and subsequent use as owner-occupied property. Property occupied by employees. Owner-occupied property awaiting disposal. Yan, property leased out under a finance lease. Property held to provide social service, which also generates cash inflows. Property held for strategic purposes and held for use in the operation or supply of goods or services. So yung karamihan dyan, i-discuss natin sa next topic, no? PPP. Okay, tandaan mo to, no? Ano yung investment property, ano yung hindi. Okay, kasi merong transfers, no? Pwedeng dati siyang held for sale, tapos ginawa na siyang investment property. For example, nilease out under an operating lease. Or pwede namang dati siyang land held for a currently undetermined future use. Tapos biglang dinivide, tapos binenta. Okay, ginawa siyang for sale. So magiging investment property to inventories. So mamaya may entries tayo dyan sa gamit. Initial measurement. Ayan. Initially measured at cost. Then the measurement of cost depends on the mode of acquisition. Pag cash purchase price plus direct costs. Okay, necessary in bringing the asset to its intended condition. Kapag installment purchase, yung cash price equivalent. Okay? Kasi 'di ba, kapag installment, for example, magda-down ka muna, then yung the rest ng balance uhulog-hulugan mo. So yung magiging cost dito is yung cash price equivalent. And yung difference nung babayaran mo and nung cash price equivalent, interest expense. Okay? Non-exchange transaction, for example, donation, no? So walang purchase price yon. Ang gagamitin mong cost is yung fair value at acquisition date. Then self-construction, yan, si direct materials, labor, and overhead. Ayan, subsequent measurement. So dito, sa government entities, hindi ginagamit yung fair value model. Okay? So yun yung isang difference, no? Hindi ginagamit yung fair value model. Cost model lang. So madali lang yung subsequent measurement, no? Cost less accumulated depreciation and accumulated impairment losses. Okay, ito yung sinasabi natin, transfers to or from investment property. So magkakaroon lang ng transfer when there is a change in use. Okay, and then yung transfer to or from investment property is at cost. Therefore, walang gain or loss. Okay, magkakaroon lang kapag may impairment loss. Entries, mamaya na lang sa gawin. The recognition, an investment property is derecognized when it is disposed or when it is permanently withdrawn from use and no future economic benefits or service potential is expected from its disposal. So magkakaroon ng gain or loss, depende, no, kung magkano yung proceeds and magkano yung carrying amount no dinispose na investment property. So pag mas malaki yung proceeds, malamang gain. Okay. Impairment. Yan ulit, no? An asset is impaired if its carrying amount exceeds its recoverable amount. So pag mas malaki yung carrying amount sa recoverable amount, may impairment. Ano ba yung recoverable amount na yan? Recoverable amount is the higher of an asset's fair value less cost to sell and its value in use. Bakit ka naghahanap? Okay, kung ano yung mas mataas sa fair value less cost to sell and sa value in use, yun yung recoverable amount. Ngayon, kung mas mataas yung carrying amount kaysa dito sa recoverable amount, merong impairment loss. Okay? Ayan. So ito pala, dinefine din, ano ba yung value in use? Present value lang yan, no? No estimated future cash flows expected to be derived from the continuing use of an asset and from its disposal at the end of its useful life. Reversal of impairment, ito alam mo na rin, no? Shall not result to a carrying amount in excess of the asset's carrying amount had no impairment loss been recognized in prior periods. So for example, ito yung carrying amount, had no impairment loss been recognized. Then ayun nga, nagkaroon ng impairment, tapos nag-reverse. Okay. Hanggang dito lang yung pwede mong i-recognize. No? Difference is gain on reversal of impairment. Yung any amount na yung excess, ignored na yan. Okay. Yan lang yung sinasabi. No? Shall not result to a carrying amount in excess of the asset's carrying amount had no impairment loss been recognized. Yan, compensation from third parties. And for example, nasunog, no, yung building and insured siya. So yung compensation is recognized when it becomes receivable. Okay. Tignan natin yung gap. Chapter 9, no? Investment property. Definition of terms. Ayan, alam mo naman na to, no? Familiar ka na dyan. Carrying amount at which an asset is presented in the statement of financial position. CGU, o cash generating unit, smallest identifiable group of assets held with the primary objective of generating a commercial return. So, mamaya kasi babanggitin yan sa bandang dulo. No? Yung kapag hindi mo kayang i-identify individually yung assets. Cost, pinag-usapan na natin ilang beses na. Depreciation, impairment, investment property, ito owner-occupied property. Property held for use in the production or supply of goods or services. So, hindi nga siya investment property. Then, recoverable amount. Ayan, higher of fair value less cost to sell and value in use. Section 3, items considered as investment property. Nabanggit na natin sa PowerPoint. Pati itong mga not considered as investment property. Criteria for recognition. Ayan. So, ito na naman si it is probable that the future economic benefits will flow to the entity and the cost or fair value can be measured reliably. Ito, initial recognition, costs, transaction costs shall be included. No? And ano ba yung mga included dyan sa cost na yan? Purchase price and directly attributable expenditures, such as itong tatlo, professional fees for legal services, property transfer taxes, and other transaction costs. Ito, costs not included naman. Startup costs, unless they are necessary to bring the property to the condition necessary for it to operate. Hindi rin kasali yung operating losses. And abnormal amounts of wasted materials. Punta natin yung example dito, yung una example, no? Through cash purchase. Entity A purchased a land for capital appreciation at a cash price of 1 million. Professional fees and transfer taxes totaling 50,000 were also paid. The accounting entry to recognize the purchase shall be as follows. So ano ba yung professional fees and transfer taxes na yan? Isasali mo ba yan bilang directly attributable expenses? Yes, ayan yun. No? Professional fees and transfer taxes. So, isama mo yung 50,000 dun sa 1 million. 1,050,000 debit investment property. Land. Okay, credit, cash, MDS regular. Next, non-exchange transaction naman. For example, donation. So, sabi natin, hindi mo naman kasi binayaran yan, no? Wala kang purchase price. Dinonate nga lang sa iyo. Or, eto, by the exercise of powers of sequestration. So, kung si government, kinuha niya yung property. Okay? Through the powers of sequestration. Example, Entity A received an unconditional donation of a piece of land with a fair value of 2 million. So, anong entry dyan? Debit investment property, land, 2 million. Credit, since hindi ka naman nagbayad ng cash, no? Ay kay-credit mo dyan, income from grants and donations in kind. 2 million. Pangatlong mode ng acquisition, self-constructed. So, alam mo naman to, no? Construction in progress muna habang hindi pa kompleto. Okay. Then, kapag na-complete na, transfer mo sa investment property account. For example, Entity A constructed a building intended to earn rent income. Contract price is 11.2 million, inclusive of VAT, payable in 2 progress billings. Okay. Advance payment for contractor is 15% of the contract price, while retention fee is 10% of the progress bill. So, paano mo siya entryhan? Una, yung advance payment muna, no? Advance payment to contractor is 15%. So, 15% times 11.2 million. Sinolve ko na yan dito. Ayun. 11.2 million times 15%. 1,680,000. So debit, advances to contractors, credit, cash, MDS regular. Next natin, to recognize the first progress billing. So ilan ba yung progress billings na? Dalawa. Okay. So take 50%. Yung una daw, ayan na. I-recognize mo na yung 50%. So debit, construction in progress, 50% no 11.2. So 5,600,000. Credit mo yung advances to contractors na 1.68 million. Then credit mo yung balances sa accounts payable. Okay, then syempre babayaran na yan, no? Yung accounts payable. Debit accounts payable 3,920,000. Credit guarantee security deposits payable. So ano ba yung 560 na yan? Yan yung 10% of the progress fee. Okay. So magkano yung progress billing? 5,600,000 times 10%, 560,000. Credit. So bandang huli, i-refund mo yan. Saan yan? Ito. So mamaya na, no? Credit. May isa pang credit dito due to BIR. For the taxes withheld, no? Pero hindi ko makuha kung ilang percent yung ginamit niya dyan. 350,000. And yung balance is cash MDS regular 3,010,000. Okay? Then yung withhold na tax, gawin mo ulit yung ginawa natin nung disbursements topic, no? Yung constructive receipt of NCA for TRA. So debit cash, TRA, credit, subsidy from national government for the constructive receipt of the NCA. Then for the constructive remittance of the withholding tax, debit due to BIR, credit, cash, TRA. Next is yung final progress billing. So yung isa pang 5,600,000, no? Debit, construction in progress, 5,600,000, credit, accounts payable. Tapos babayaran ulit yung accounts payable na yan. Debit, AP, 5.6 million. Credit guarantee security deposit payable, yung 560. Again, 10% ng progress billing. Then yung withholding ng for BIR, due to BIR, 350. The credit, cash, MDS regular for the balance. 4,690,000. Dating gawin, debit, cash, TRA, credit, subsidy from national government. Debit due to BIR, credit, cash, TRA for the constructive receipt and constructive remittance. Ngayon, tapos na yung construction, ilipat mo na sa investment property account. So debit investment property, buildings, okay. Credit construction in progress, buildings and other structures for the total amount of 11.2 million. Then your retention fee, i-refund. So debit guarantee security deposits payable, credit, cash, MDS regular. So puntahan nga natin yung volume 3 ng GAM. Makita mo saan ito ginagamit. Ito pala dapat. Iyan. Tayo mo ma-highlight. Gahang siya. 2 million. 2 0. Nagahang yata yung ano natin. Edge. Yun. Ayan, yung account na yan. This account is used to recognize the incurrence of a liability arising from the receipt of cash or cash equivalents to guarantee performance by contractor of the terms of the contract. Okay. Simple lang naman, no? Kapag construction, naging complicated lang dahil sa details ng problem. So, merong retention fee, tsaka advance payment to contractor. Pero ang nangyayari lang naman dyan, construction in progress muna habang di pa tapos. Then, transfer mo to investment property. Okay? Next natin na example, entity A constructed a building by administration with total costs of 1,048,000, consisting of construction materials, labor costs, and various overhead expenses. Ayan. Illustrative entries are as follows. So makikita mo dito, to recognize the issue of construction materials amounting to 448, debit, ito muna. To recognize the payment of construction materials pala muna. So debit, construction materials inventory, credit, due to BIR, credit, cash MDS na regular. Ayan. Then kapag i-issue na for construction, yung materials, debit mo na sa construction in progress. Credit, the construction materials inventory. So ito na-discuss natin sa inventory topic. No? Sana pinanood mo yung ating video lecture. Next, for labor naman, so debit, construction in progress, credit, due to BIR, credit, cash MDS na regular. For overhead, ganun pa rin, no? Debit, CIB, credit. Dito nag-assume siya ng iba't ibang values ng overhead expenses, water expenses, electricity, and salaries and wages sa regular. Ayan. Then yung constructive receipt and constructive remittance, hinentry niya ulit. Then yung pag-transfer ng construction in progress account sa investment property. Debit investment property, credit, CIP. Okay. So ganun lang naman. Pag self-constructed, yung investment property. Next is, ito installment payment. So sabi natin, cash price equivalent yung cost niya. Example, entity A purchased a land for capital appreciation. Cash price is 1,120,000. 50% down payment and the balance is payable in 10 equal annual installments at 10% interest per year. So magkano daw yung cash price equivalent? 1,120,000. Yan ba yung i-debit mo? Yes. Okay. So debit, investment property, land, 1,120,000. Credit cash MDS regular, 510. Then yung withholding no? Sa BIR, 50,000. Credit, yung balance, accounts payable, 560. So 1,120,000 kasi, 50% lang yung binayad na down. Yung balance 10 equal annual installments. 10% per year. So yung unang hulog ng accounts payable, debit accounts payable 56,000. Pero syempre may interest nga na 10% per year, no? So compute mo, 10% times 56,000, 5,600 interest expense. credit, cash MDS regular, and yung withholding due to BIR. Second payment, ganun pa rin. Same amounts. And dito hindi na pinakita no, yung pag-remit sa BIR. Yung constructive remittance to BIR. So, pinakita niya na lang kung magkano o kung ano yung magiging entries no, kapag installment payment. Ang nakadebit niya is yung cash price equivalent. Okay. Then subsequent measurement o measurement after initial recognition. Cost model niya. Walang fair value model. So, mangyayari lang cost less any accumulated depreciation and accumulated impairment losses. Illustrative entries, madi-discuss sa chapter 10. PPE. So, next meeting. No? Wala pa ng meeting kasi magre-record lang tayo na lecture dyan for PPE. Okay, then transfers to or from investment property. Ito yung sinasabi natin. No? Pwedeng maging dahilan or nung change in use is ito. Commencement of owner occupation. So, dating investment property, magiging owner-occupied property. So, ano yung magiging entries niya? Ito yun. Example, on January 1, 2015, Entity A decided to occupy a building currently used as investment property. The building had a cost of 20 million. Useful life, 10 years. Accumulated debt, 9,500,000. Allowance for impairment, 500. Okay. So, anong aalisin mo? Yung investment property. Okay, kasi ililipat mo siya sa owner-occupied property. Anong gagawin mo? I-credit mo yung investment property account. Ayan, naka-credit yung investment property buildings. I-debit mo sa PPE account, so buildings account. Okay. Kasi nga, magiging owner-occupied property na siya. So, tingnan natin yung account type sa volume. Ayan, buildings and other structures. Under siya na, PPE. Okay? Ayan yung ma-highlight. Ayan, buildings. From investment property buildings account. Ayan. From IP, naging PPE siya. Okay? Siyempre, yung mga allowance accounts o yung mga contra accounts niya, ilipat mo rin. So, dito sa investment property, ang contra accounts is ito, accumulated depreciation, investment property, and accumulated impairment losses, investment property. Lipat mo rin sila sa accumulated depreciation no PPE. Okay. So, transfer lang talaga yung ginawa. Sobrang easy. Siyempre, after nyan, yung depreciation mo, diretso mo na dun sa PPE account. So, debit, depreciation, buildings, and other structures, credit, accumulated depreciation, buildings. Okay? So, yan. From investment property, naging PPE. Ang kabaligtaran naman niya is itong letter C, no? End of owner occupation. Okay, so manggagaling siya sa owner-occupied property to investment property. Same lang yung gagawin mo, opposite lang. So ang tatanggalin mo dito is yung buildings account. Lipat mo yung PPE na to sa investment property. Ayan. Then yung contra accounts niyan, lipat mo rin sa investment property. Ayun. Simple. To recognize transfer from PPE to IP. Then yung depreciation, dito na sa investment property account. Okay. Yung amounts dito, no, solve mo na lang on your own. Ayun naman yung details ng problem. 5% remaining, hindi, 5% residual value and 5 years remaining useful life. Okay. Next natin, transfer from investment property to inventories naman. For example, yun yan, commencement of development with a view to sale. So ito dating investment property, gagawing inventories. For example, on January 1, 2015, Entity A decided to subdivide, develop, and sell the land currently held as an investment property. So lilipat mo lang. Credit mo yung investment property land, debit mo yung merchandise inventory. Okay? Ganun lang kasimple. Kuhanin mo account code na. Ayan. Inventory held for sale. This account is used to recognize cost of goods purchased, acquired, or produced which are intended for sale in the ordinary course of business. So since held for sale na nga yung land na yan, nasa merchandise inventory account na siya. Okay? Pwede rin yung transfer na from inventories to investment property naman. So, kabaligtaran. Transfer from inventories to investment property. Example, a building held for sale in the ordinary course of business is to be leased out by the entity. Building is carried as inventory at a cost of 10 million. Then residual value 5%, remaining useful life 5 years. So from merchandise inventory, lilipat mo lang siya ng investment property. Okay. Then syempre, nung nasa investment property na siya, magdi-depreciate niya. So debit depreciation, investment property, credit, accumulated depreciation, investment property. Again, compute mo na lang to, amounts na to. Based dyan sa 5% useful, ay residual value and 5 years na useful life. Dali lang, no? Easy. Yan yung transfers to or from investment property. Next na entries. Sa gains and losses naman. Okay. For example, a building held as investment property is sold to another entity for 5 million. Ito yung proceeds, ano? Carrying amount, kuhanin mo. 4 million daw yung cost, accumulated depreciation 500, and impairment loss 100. Solve mo nga dito, 4 million minus 500 minus 100, 3,400,000. So yan yung carrying amount. Ang proceeds mo ay 5 million. So less 5 million na proceeds. Gain mo 1,600,000. So entryhan mo na siya. Debit cash, collecting officer 5 million. Credit investment property 4 million. Debit mo yung mga accumulated depreciation and impairment losses 500 and 100. Then yung difference is yung gain on sale of investment property, which is 1,600,000. Yan lang naman kasimple. Gains and losses. Dalhin mo sa surplus or deficit in the period of retirement or disposal. Ito, compensation from third parties. For example, a building held as investment property was razed by fire. It had a cost of 4 million, depreciation 500, impairment 100. So carrying amount niya, same pa rin nung nasa taas, 3,400,000. So yung 3,400,000 na yan, nasunog. So mag-debit ka na expense. Loss of assets, 3,400,000. Itong account na to, puntahan mo rin dyan sa gap. This account is used to recognize amount of loss suffered by government due to theft, fortuitous events, calamities, or civil unrest, and events of same nature for which relief has been granted. Okay. So ano kayang relief yung sinasabi dyan? Tingnan mo yung next entries. Meron pa lang insurance o GSIS insurance fund. Debit due from government-owned or controlled corporations, 1,500,000. Credit, other service income, 1,500,000. Then, syempre, mako-collect yung due from na yan. Debit cash, collecting officer. Credit, due from GOCC, 1,500,000. Syempre, may collection, remit sa treasury. Debit cash, treasury agency deposit regular. Credit cash, collecting officers. Okay. Ayan, for compensation from third parties. And sabi nga natin, compensation from third parties shall be recognized in surplus or deficit when compensation becomes receivable. Then, puntahan natin yung impairment. So, dito, pinapakita lang yung indications ng impairment. Na mayroong impairment. Pwedeng external, nandyan si market value, na nag-decline significantly. Pwede ring significant changes with adverse effect on the entity. Pwede ring market interest rates and other market rates of return have increased during the period. So, pwedeng indications yan ng impairment. Internal naman, na indication, obsolescence of asset. Or ito, asset becomes idle or there are plans to discontinue or restructure the operation. Pwede ring decision to halt the construction of an asset before it is complete. So, hindi na itutuloy. And ito, evidence from internal reporting that indicates that the economic performance of an asset is or will be worse than expected. Computation ng impairment. Ito, binanggit naman natin kanina, ng impairment loss, kapag mas malaki yung carrying amount kaysa sa recoverable amount. Paano mo computing yung carrying amount? Alam mo na to, no? Kahit nakapikit ka. Cost less accumulated depreciation and impairment loss. Recoverable amount, ito yung higher of value in use and fair value less cost to sell. So, kung may mas mataas sa dalawa, yan yung recoverable amount. Ano naman yung value in use? Present value of the assets, estimated future cash flow. So, ito yung computation, no? Na estimated future cash flows. Ayan, projections of cash inflows, pati yung sa cash outflows. Okay. Na directly attributable. And net cash flows for the disposal of the asset. So, parang kang nagne-net present value dito. Okay. So, magkaroon na tayo ng example dito. Investment property with estimated useful life of 40 years, 35 million. Accumulated depreciation, 20,781,000. So, yung carrying amount niya is 14,218,750. Okay ka na sa carrying amount. Next mo tingnan, magkano yung recoverable amount. Paano mo malalaman yun? Compare mo muna yung fair value less cost to sell and yung value in use. So, kung hindi given yung value in use, computein mo rin. Ito naman yung formula niya. Okay. Pero sa case natin sa baba, given naman yung value in use, 13,500,000. Yung fair value less cost to sell, given din, 14,150. So, ano yung mas malaki dyan? Yan yung recoverable amount mo. Kasi nga, higher of fair value less cost to sell and value in use. So, ano mas malaki? 14,150. Yan na ba yung recoverable amount? Yes. Compare mo yan ngayon dun sa carrying amount. Mas malaki ba yung carrying amount? Yes. Okay. So, merong impairment. Magkano? 14,218 minus 14,150. 68,750. Debit, impairment loss, investment property. Credit, accumulated impairment losses, investment property. Okay. So, madali lang, no? Kasi given naman lahat. Yung entries lang talaga yung pinapakita dyan. Ngayon, paano pag nag-impair? Siyempre, magbabago yung depreciation expense. Pero kayang-kaya mo naman ito i-compute. Paano ba i-compute ang depreciation expense? Carrying amount minus residual value. Divide mo sa remaining useful life. Ito lang din yon. Kaya lang, revise na yung carrying amount dito. So, ano ba yung revised carrying amount natin? Ito na, no? Yung recoverable amount. 14,150. So, 14,150 minus residual value, 5%, no? Ng 35. Tama, 35 million times 5%, 1,750,000. So, subtract mo dito sa carrying amount, yung residual value, divide mo sa remaining useful life in months. So, ito yung depreciation per month. Paano i-record yan? Alam mo na rin. Depreciation, debit, credit, accumulated depreciation. Ayan. So, kanina, merong indications, no, ng impairment. So, dito naman, may indications din na that the asset may no longer be impaired. Okay, itong mga indications na yan, opposite lang nung kaninang indications ng impairment. So, yun nandito sa taas. Yan. Okay, pwede kasing hindi na siya maging impaired at magkaroon ng recovery o reversal ng impairment loss. Okay, example niyan, investment property, 35 million. Then, ito yung accumulated depreciation niya nung first 25 years, 20,781,250. Then, subsequent years, nag-impair ka nga. So, nag-iba yung depreciation mo. Naging 1,653,000. Okay. Then, accumulated impairment losses is 68,750. Tama ba? Ayan, 68,750. So, yung revised carrying amount should be the recoverable amount, no? 14,150,000. Tingnan natin dito, 14,150,000 ba? Ay, ibang given ba to? Ay, oo. 14,150,000 minus 1,653,000. Tama ba? Teka. 14,150,000 minus yung 1,653,333. Subtract nga natin ito. 12,496,666. Oo, tama. So, 12,496,666. Yan ang revised carrying amount ng 27th year. Okay. So, tingnan mo dito, yung first assumption. Assume that on December 31 of the 27th year, fair value less cost to sell is 13 million and value in use is 12,700,000. So, ano bang tinitingnan mo kasi dyan? Yung recoverable amount. Tingnan mo. No? Baka lumaki na yung recoverable amount. Kasi dati, yung recoverable amount mo, bumaba siya, naging 14,150. Okay. So, tingnan mo dito, baka after 2 years, bumalik na siya or tumaas na siya. So, fair value less cost to sell is 13 million. Value in use is 12,700. So, alin dyan yung recoverable amount? Yung higher. So, 13 million. Okay, 13 million yung recoverable amount mo. Compare mo sa carrying amount niya. Okay. Carrying amount with impairment loss on December 31 of 2017 year, ito yun. Compare mo yung recoverable amount. Mas malaki na yung recoverable amount, 13 million. So yung difference is 503,333. Yan yung estimated reversal. Pero yan ba yung i-reverse mo? Hindi mo pa sure, no? Tingnan mo muna kung magkano ba yung carrying amount ng asset had no impairment loss been recognized. Ibig sabihin lang, tingnan mo magkano sana yung naging carrying amount niya kung hindi nangyari itong impairment na to. So buong 27 years nung investment property, same accumulated depreciation yung mangyayari. O same depreciation expense pala for the year. So tingnan mo dito. Okay, ito pala, no? So accumulated depreciation of the investment property for 27 years, 22,443,750. So try nga natin tong compute. 20,781 divide natin sa 25 years. Year, no? Times mo ngayon ng 27 years. Twenty-two, 443,750. So ito nga yun, ano? Accumulated depreciation for 27 years is 22,443,750. Magkano sana yung naging carrying amount kung hindi siya nag-impair? Ayan. 12,556,250. Hanggang dito lang ba yung pwede mong i-reverse na impairment? Yes. So hindi mo gagamitin yung 13 million dito, no? Ito lang. So yung reversal mo is, yan, i-compare mo lang, no? Yung 12,556 na carrying amount had no impairment loss been recognized in the previous years, and yung carrying amount mo noong nagkaroon ng impairment. So hindi pa lang siya pwedeng kumita ng trend. So carrying amount with impairment is 12,496. So yung reversal is 59,583 lang. Ayan. Kung entry, simple lang din naman. Debit accumulated impairment losses, investment property, credit reversal of impairment losses. This is a revenue account. Ayan. 4. So tingnan mo ulit dito, no? Yan, this account is used to recognize the reversal of impairment loss. This account shall be closed to revenue and expense summary account. So itong problem na to, yan lang yung pinakikita dito sa figure na yan. So hindi ka pwedeng mag-reverse ng nag-pass dun sa carrying amount had no impairment loss been recognized. Okay, and then ito, example of no reversal of impairment loss. Ayan, so ang nakita lang dito is yung recoverable amount is 12 million. Mas mababa pa rin siya. Mas mababa siya kaysa dun sa carrying amount with impairment loss. So walang reversal of impairment loss. Okay. Ayan. Okay, hanggang dito lang naman tayo, no? Itong disclosures and procedures, for your reading na lang yan kung gusto mo mas ma-appreciate yung government accounting for investment property. Important sa atin yung entries. Then next natin ito, PPE. Ayan, may questions ba guys sa bahay? Nadagdagan ba kayo? 4 pa. May questions ba? Wala. Dali go ba? Parang ito yung chill subject mo ngayong SEM. Tama ba? Tara, stop natin yung recording. Guys, unmute lang kung may question ha.